Hey, friendo, Steve here. It's time for another Ask WrestleJuice. You guys left a bunch of questions. I'm going to get through as many as I can. First up, from TKDB. Should John Cena retire with the title and reset the WWE? This one was thumbs upped a lot. Remember, if you guys are going to be leaving questions, leave a penny, take a penny. Take a penny, leave a penny. Whatever the phrase is, leave a thumbs up on the questions that you want to see answered, not just yours. So, should John Cena make good on his promise to retire with the WWE Championship? And then they introduce a new one, and then everybody's got to fight over that one. But John Cena leaving, kind of being end of his own era, if you consider Triple H, HBK, and Undertaker the end of an era stuff, that whole 4-match series they had with like each other or whatever, as sort of like the concluding storyline of the Attitude Era. Maybe this can be the concluding story of the Ruthless Aggression era, or maybe the PG era. I don't know. In any event, should John Cena retire as champion and leave? I guess you got to look at the pros and cons of both. Number one, would they be able to tell a compelling story that has a satisfying ending that doesn't involve somebody beating John Cena for the title? Generally speaking, in wrestling stories, the narrative goes, stuff happens, person gets beat, and then that person then sort of carries on the lineage of that particular story. It's basically a soap opera. I have not watched a soap opera in 30 years, a brief spell in the summer of 1988, I think it was, when I used to watch, I don't know, what was it? Neighbours, I think, when I lived in England. That was an Australian one, but they aired it on the BBC. Anyways, so the narrative structure for pro wrestling is guy gets beat. Bad guy is bad guy, and then he gets beat. So if bad guy remains bad guy and just leaves, what's like the story there? What's the actual story? You could point to, for example, Marvel's Infinity War, where the bad guy won, but then in Endgame, the good guys won. So that doesn't really apply. That was just kind of a lot of movies with a bunch of acts. You know, they told like the 3-act thing, but in the span of 2 movies there. So that doesn't really, that's not a good analogy right there. It's just Cena goes away. Maybe does it drive Cody Rhodes mad? I mean, there's something maybe interesting there where John Cena retires and it sort of drives Cody Rhodes a little bit mad. And his new journey is finding peace with him having never beat John Cena, with him not accomplishing his mission of taking that title back from John Cena and preventing him from doing what he said he was going to do. Maybe there is something interesting there. Maybe. Let's say John Cena turns good guy before he leaves and still vanquishes a new big bad. Let's say Seth Rollins, who's like kind of, I guess, number one heel right now. Him, I mean, you can't really consider Drew McIntyre number one heel. Who's over on SmackDown? Anybody? No, well, it's John Cena, so we're talking about him. So like Seth Rollins, let's say John Cena turns good guy, and in the very end, Seth Rollins looks like he's going to be the guy to take that title off of John Cena. They do a cross-brand thing of some sort. I don't know, or they just amp up Drew McIntyre, and he's the big bad. Maybe he's got money in the bank. I don't know. In any event, John Cena's turned good somehow, some way, and Cody doesn't get his rematch. He keeps on getting thwarted on that one, driving his new story into 2026, I guess. And Drew McIntyre, takes on John Cena's last match. Everybody assumes, oh, Drew's going to win this match. And John Cena's going to go out on his back. That's what he should do. Say Triple H says, no, we're going to do things a little bit different. John Cena goes out as a good guy. And sure enough, he takes that title with him. Maybe they could do a thing where Cody's like, but John, I never beat you. I need to have that match. I need to prove to myself that I can beat you. And John can look at him and say, hey, kid. Hey, Jack. Right? When I beat you, I cheated. You always had it in you to beat me. Shakes his hand and walks off into the sunset with that title. With the title, like, turned backwards, too. So Cody has to, say goodbye to the title. I don't know. That's the most convincing or satisfying conclusion to the John Cena story. Him going out a hero, keep making sure that Drew McIntyre doesn't win the day. Maybe Cody just doesn't get everything he wants. Maybe that would be pretty compelling. Hey, Cody, the championship is in your heart. You already have it. Or some shit like that. I don't know, man. It would definitely be surprising because in pro wrestling, the guy gets beat before he leaves. But maybe in this case, maybe not. Man, that's a ballsy move, though. That is a ballsy move. So, is it possible? Could they pull it off? Maybe. Maybe it's something Triple H has always wanted to try. Now that he's got the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, maybe him not like using John Cena to get somebody over. You know, like, does Cody need to beat John Cena? Drew McIntyre could beat, I mean, that'd be kind of cool. But John Cena's been beat by so many people. I guess the idea is if he goes back to being a good guy, you know, does he continue his winning ways? I don't know. I mean, the way they did that Randy Orton match, it was so wildly overbooked. It was a lot of fun. But as a good guy, doesn't he just suck again? Because that's what he was before. If he can't cheat, doesn't he just suck? I don't know. You know, then he's got to find it within him to beat Drew McIntyre. And then he does. Everybody cheers. And then, hey, Cody. So, like, as he's leaving, the after credits scene, he's departing, he's leaving. Everybody's lined up there. And Cody says, John, I need to beat you. It's my new story. Sorry, Jack. Can't do it. But you're a champion where it counts, Cody. And then he leaves. And they have a new title. And they do a tournament for the new title. I don't know. Maybe that works. Maybe that works. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think for a I think at probably War Games. It's not War Games. It's Survivor Series. They haven't branded it War Games. Probably at Survivor Series, Cody gets the title back. Or at Survivor Series, John Cena goes good again. It's one of those two things. Maybe Cody wins the title at SummerSlam. And then at Survivor Series, John Cena goes good for his last month. And then, you know, the last big show, the last week of December, probably in Boston, he maybe then without an off title, he fights Drew McIntyre and he beats Drew McIntyre, something like that. I don't know. The Champ 0725 says, does WWE sacrifice quality for revenue way too often? This is a question that I've heard in various iterations. There's a couple versions of this question on this particular thread. And I personally don't see it. There's somebody else said something along the lines of, it wasn't even a question. It was just a gripe. It was like WWE cares way too much about sponsorships. It honestly, and this is, I will say this. I would not think less of a person if they felt this way. I personally do not care, and I find it entertaining and funny in just oh my God, they're ridiculous and they're shameless, but it's wrestling. It's ridiculous and shameless in the best way possible. But, you know, you got the drumstick guy there hooping and hollering at WrestleMania. You had the Cinnamon Toast Crunch stuff. You got the Prime bottle stuff, the Prime energy drink stuff, or whatever it is. It doesn't bother me. You got Morgan & Morgan, a giant yellow logo in the middle of the ring. I'll be honest with you, completely, totally true. I like the ads in the ring. They don't bother me. And in fact, as you can see, look around me. Do you know what? Like every day, whenever I record one of these videos, light, TV, light behind TV. Light here. Yeah, the light there, the red light there. I am a person who appreciates sensory overload. That's me. That's why me and Larson get along so well, because he's the exact opposite. He likes sensory deprivation. And I'm surprised that he actually has like color light in his bedroom for his set and like the Sid painting. So he does a couple things. But it's not like this. Look, that's why I crop it. That's why I do this, the whatever 4:3 thing here, which is not even pure 4:3. But look at this, like, you know, because it's just too much. So I don't mind it. As far as the quality is concerned, if somebody can point me to one thing that shows me that the story or the script was significantly altered to reflect the desire to sell things to people, then my mind is open. My ears are open. But when I look at the Mania 41 Night 2 main event, people criticize it because of the pace of the match, basically, because of the Travis Scott moment at the end, basically, Cody not wanting to hit John Cena. None of that has to do with sponsorships. when they praise the night one opener, the night two opener, sorry, the triple threat match, the night one main event, the triple threat, people criticize the stories in the wrestling. And that's the heart. That's the substantive criticism. And the individual criticism of the sponsorships, I understand and I can appreciate that. But that to me is not substantive. That is superficial. That is, these things are distracting me, which is an issue for some people. And I respect that and I understand it. It doesn't affect me. That stuff really just fades to the background as I focus on the in-ring action, the stories being told, etc., etc. You know, if Damian Priest is dropping his promo on Drew McIntyre and he's sitting there and he's like, "Hey, Drew McIntyre, I want to get you in a steel cage." And then he's got some Cinnamon Toast Crunch with him. "And after I beat you, I'm going to have some Cinnamon Toast Crunch. All rise." You know? So if that were to happen, I probably wouldn't mind because it's really funny. That'd be completely crazy. But I don't think that's going to happen. So no, I honestly don't think that any of that stuff bothers me. If it bothers you, I get it. I understand. But I don't think they're sacrificing quality. I don't think that they are keeping mind. I don't think they're being mindful of sponsors with the exception of, you know, hey, we're not going to be saying the fuck word over and over again. Or, you know, hey, let's try to limit the blood. Now, they probably do that to keep their programming, you know, sponsor happy, I guess. Jag Money Entertainment says, what 90s grunge song would you make as the new theme to Raw? It would be Nirvana's Breed. That song it's fast-paced, it's awesome, it's catchy. I love it. I think it's great. It's one of my favorite grunge songs there is. That would be my song. Weege says, who is John Cena's actual best rival? His Orton rivalry is overrated, in my opinion. Yeah, a lot of people are like, nah, the Cena Orton thing, kind of nothing. For me personally, it'd probably be CM Punk. I know it was very short-lived. It's not like it was a whole giant series of matches or anything. But when you look at CM Punk and who his character is, it is so diametrically opposed to what John Cena is. And I think that's why it worked so well. CM Punk at his best, John Cena really didn't have much ammo to work with. Now, when Punk went heel, maybe Cena could cook him on the mic a little bit. But, I mean, that was sort of more, I don't know. That was more of a situation where CM Punk was manufacturing the bad guy thing, as opposed to doing what he did best, which is being anti-authority. And Cena represented basically the authority or the corporate side of WWE, and CM Punk was railing against that. And that's when he worked best. And so I think, given that it wasn't exactly like their rivalry was like of the ages, it wasn't like, you know, a bunch of matches over a span of years and years. It was only a handful. I think that was his best rival. You know, Edge maybe, but I wasn't watching a whole lot of that stuff. So like, I'm probably not the person to ask. During a chunk of that period of time, I kind of dipped out a little bit. But yeah, I'd say probably Punk. Shotgun Sean says, magically you can own one item from wrestling history. It's the actual item and it can be anything you want. For example, ring gear, title belt, prop, Triple H's Terminator entrance attire, anything. All right, so this is kind of a non-jokey answer. I mean, I can come up with a million jokey answers, but I think mine would actually be, I thought about it for a second here, RVD's ECW television championship that he held for a really long time. When I first was exposed to ECW, I think it was during his long television championship run. I think he was maybe tag champ with Sabu as well. And I just was mesmerized by what RVD could do in the ring. I was like, holy shit, this is not anything I could imagine wrestling could be. And so RVD is on my Mount Rushmore, my personal Mount Rushmore. So yeah, it'd be the television title because that was like kind of a bigger deal than the world title for a spell because RVD was the man. So the ECW World Television Championship that RVD held, that one. Cold Brew CJ says, which wrestler on the injured shelf do you currently miss seeing on your screen the most, no matter the promotion? He says for him, Keith Lee. Maybe Keith Lee also. Yeah, I'm just going to steal your answer because it's the right one. I hope that whatever Keith Lee is going through, he recovers from and is healthy and happy. And we hear from him again at some point. But mostly I just want the guy to be healthy and happy. Seems like a lovely fella. And yeah, I miss Keith Lee. I think he's great. Black Hat JRV says, pineapple on pizza? Hard no. Sniper says, who is one underrated wrestler or wrestlers that don't get talked about enough that you legitimately hope gets a title push in the next 5 years? I hope Cedric Alexander goes to AEW and wins a title there. Because I think Cedric Alexander is the bee's knees, man. I think he's really cool. So I hope he shows up in AEW and he wins a title. Orlando Wright says, is the iconic Money in the Bank cash-in dead? No, I just think that, like, even historically speaking, they're difficult to pull off in a way that's, like, super satisfying. I thought Damian Priest was really good. I don't know if anybody can argue with that. I thought his was really good. I thought Tiffany Stratton's was really good. Hopefully they are concocting or have concocted a good reason or a good storyline thing they can do. Drew's was stupid, but it fed into his story. And so hopefully they come up with a good winner for both the men and the women and a really cool storyline, organic way that they can really aim high for the cash in. But no, it's all about the writing. That's all it is. Cat's Plunge 1 says, if views and money were not an issue, what content idea would you pursue or make? All right, so let's say that Steve here all of a sudden got that fat WWE check. They said, Steve, here's $1 million, which really doesn't seem like that. Here's $10 million to do a series of videos where you bash AEW. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And so I do that. I complete my task for WWE, and now I've got $10 million, which after those bastards in Washington take my tax money, use it for a bunch of shit that I don't care about, military and whatnot. They take my tax money. So I'm left with, like, I don't know, whatever, $5 million, $6 million. Oh boy, I'm old, so that's enough to retire on. What would I do? I would probably take some of that money and I would start a comic book publishing company. Because that sounds really fucking cool. Because then it's like, oh man, I got a cool idea for a movie or for a comic book or something. And then I would just make it happen. I would just do that. I'm actually working on another comic book right now. Who knows if it'll see the light of day, but I kind of miss drawing and all that kind of stuff. So I got, like, I don't know, 5 pages done of this thing. I don't know when I'm going to get it done, but I'm having a good time doing it. But yeah, I'd probably become like a comic book publisher. Something I've always wanted to do. But man, oh man, you know, that it costs a lot of money to do that, and you lose a lot of money doing it. High risk, not a very high reward. But yeah, I'd do that. If views and money were not an issue, I'd probably like, I don't know. I like the interactive experience here, so I'd probably just get on Twitch or something and watch wrestling videos once a week or something like that. I'd probably, yeah. But I mean, no, I honestly, like, for views and money being an issue, I love what I do. Like, if there was, I'll put it this way, because I think somebody else in the question thread asked. Grant3613 said, was a wrestling podcast always the idea, or did you guys entertain other possible topics? So, this is what happened. We started the wrestling podcast Going in Raw about a year or so. Well, less than a year, about 8 months or 6 months. I don't know what it was. About 6 months before we got laid off. And so that right there was actually, it was something that we felt once we got laid off. We were like, hey, let's keep doing this because we're pretty sure we can make money doing this. And we're both very interested in it. We had considered continue to do video game related content on YouTube. And in fact, that was kind of what I was pushing. And Larson was like, I'm not really into video games. And so it sort of became like, okay, well, you're clearly not into this. What else should we do? I think he had brought up doing like comedy sketches kind of thing, just like little short films or whatever, comedy bits, because we always had a really good time doing that. And I was kind of like, man, I don't know what the legs are on that. If that's something that people would really respond to, I'm sure we would have people who enjoyed it, but it wasn't the kind of thing that I thought, okay, we'll always have a constant line of stuff that we can produce content on. Like if the idea dries up, we're fucked. You know what I mean? with wrestling, there's always stuff there. We never really considered movies, which always kind of surprised me after the fact, that we never were like, hey, you know what? We're both big movie aficionados, if you will. We went to film school together. Why don't we do like a movie video series thing? Why don't we do that? That never really crossed our plate. It was basically wrestling and video games, and we were going to do both. But when I realized, when I was putting together the graphics for the Patreon for the wrestling thing, I was like, this isn't really like, I don't know how to even approach the gaming stuff, but the wrestling stuff really fits. It really makes sense the way I'm putting this together. So I went to him and I said, what if we just do wrestling? And Larson was like, yeah, I kind of had the same thought. So we just did wrestling, and that was it. Broken Novocaine says, with such a loaded roster, should WWE stop signing new talent for a while and focus on who they already have? I think that's a good idea, but I don't think they're going to do it, and I think it's probably also a bad idea. The reason why is because there's always new, exciting talent out there. I do think that insisting on loading up on completely fresh talent, people who haven't experienced the indies, I would dial that back. I would focus more on people who have been able to establish a brand for themselves and have made it to a TNA or an AEW or Ring of Honor, whatever, New Japan, whatever. If it was me, I'd probably focus on that, because you like focusing so much on, hey, let's do these tryouts where we're bringing in this mass number of, college athletes. It's like there's so much seemingly that goes into developing somebody for pro wrestling, as opposed to like, hey, this person loved it so much, they were willing to do it for nothing. They were willing to, and they were creative enough to establish their own brand. They know how to work in the ring. They've worked with veterans. They've been doing this for even a couple years, and they made a name for themselves. Guys like Javon Evans, for example. That's what I would think they'd want to focus on. But one of the things about WWE right now, one of their problems is like their main event scene is loaded with old dudes. And in the next 5 years, them old dudes are going to start retiring quickly. So they probably want to focus more on developing who they have as quickly as possible. Guys like Braun Breaker, Jacob Fatu. There's not a lot of other names that are really kind of like you can see in that main event spot 10 years from now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but I think that they should, probably dial back a little bit because the rosters are really loaded right now. Yeah. I don't think they will, though. Toki Aruni Roo says, how long do you think WWE will stay on Netflix? I think their deal's for 5 years. 10, I think there's like an option for 10. Probably 10, probably the full length. James Isaac says, what's the hype with Fatu? What do people like in him? Seriously. My dad used to have a phrase. It was something like, either you get it or you don't. Either you get it or you don't. There's nothing I can do to explain to you why this guy is so awesome. I don't know why you don't see that, because he's fucking awesome. I love Jacob Fatu, Sacramento's own Jacob Fatu, by the way. He is incredible. And if you don't get it, I don't know what to tell you. All right, that's going to do it for this Ask Wrestle Juice. Thanks, everybody, for your questions. I appreciate it. Remember, hit that subscribe button and the notify bell so you're notified when there's a new thread up, whether it's the Ask Wrestle Juice, the hot takes, or like I did yesterday, the conspiracy theory video. I do a thread for that as well when I do it. So, yeah, be sure to hit that subscribe button and then the other thing, notify bell. That's it. See you guys around.